Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss what appears to be a remarkable awakening happening in the country right now, as Liz Truss's disastrous time in office hasn't just got hard Brexit crowds worried, but given those arguing against Brexit a new lease of life. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, I think this is the first time I've been able to record a video a day in advance for quite a while. Hopefully things are a little bit calmer for a few days. I know there's going to be quite a lot of intrigue, but nothing really happens until Monday. But either way, I'm in London now. Well, I'm not in London now, but when this video is published, I'll be in London at the Rejoin March. And I was thinking, might actually have more impact this weekend than it would have done last month. There's been a bit of a shift in the past few weeks, a real shift. It's almost like since leaving the single market and customs union especially, there's been a bookkeeping exercise going on. People like myself providing commentary of the harms that Brexit's doing, whilst also paying close attention to the archbishops of Brexit to see if they've found any benefits yet. We're still waiting, I'll let you know. Any decade now, apparently. But over the last week or so, there's been a bit of electricity. The Financial Times have just produced a video on Brexit that's getting a lot of attention. Quite right too, it is superb. I'll post a link to the YouTube version in the description below, but it's also available without the paywall on their main website. It lasts for just under half an hour, and every moment is just what people need to hear. It's the Financial Times, so it focuses on trade. Doesn't really focus on the harm it's caused politics or society in general, or the future risks to the environment and so on. Just trade. But the benefit of having the Financial Times produce something like this is people cannot say it's biased or shilling for anyone. The FT is produced to be read by the people who basically own the country, business owners, but most especially corporate executives and investors. Unlike with some other media outlets, there's no benefit in the FT misleading their readers. In fact, their interests are powerfully against any of that nonsense. Their readers need absolutely frank, accurate information in order to be well informed enough to make good, sound investment and business decisions. If the FT doesn't give them that, it is of no value. They also can't be accused of being Marxist wokenauts. This paper is capitalism central, but with a brain. And it has utterly trashed Brexit. Not just Brexit in practice. It doesn't just say that Brexit has been handled badly, though it has, but that the entire concept is fundamentally flawed. And unlike some other documentaries, there's no filler with explosions to keep the viewer awake. Every second of the video is saying something relevant and important. It's not the whole picture, like I say, but it is vital information that should be shared as widely as possible. But there was one really interesting comment in the video for me, because the FT have been reporting on the harms of Brexit from day one. I've been getting a lot of really useful information and analysis from them. They are by far and away the most expensive subscription I have. But that's because, as I said, their readership are very wealthy people. But for me, it was worth every penny. They talk about Brexit being like a slow puncture, not the explosive mess that some Remainers foolishly tried to claim, like George Osborne, that unfortunately the Brexiteers even now try and use to dismiss Remainers as alarmists. Oh, they said this had happened and this had happened, and it never happened. And I keep trying to say, no, the experts never said that. That was idiots like Osborne and Cameron. The experts never said that. But, that's what they'll do now. They go, oh, yeah, they claimed this. They claimed the sky would fall and it didn't. But what they say in the FT video, it was a slow puncture that they say has turned into an audible hiss with Kwarteng's mini-budget. Now, I'd already discussed recently that the Tufton Street Brigade behind Truss and Kwarteng have been in open panic ever since it became clear that this mini-budget was going to be reversed. They've been out in force claiming that there's a danger Brexit itself will be reversed. Probably one of the few true things these hapless cabbages have ever said. But why did they tie their Brexit so strongly to the budget, I pondered? Because everyone else did anyway. The FT are saying that the mini-budget has made Brexit harms way more noticeable. I shall possibly be referring to it in my little talk at the Rejoin March this Saturday. tomorrow, today. Depends on your point of view. Time travel on the internet and all that. But it's not just the FT. Byline Times announced that they're working on a Brexit documentary as well. The announcement was made before the FT published theirs, so it's not piggybacking. We've two media outlets seeing that the time has come to really start to explain Brexit in a more digestible format for people. The FT usually have their stuff behind a paywall, but not this. They produce this video because they consider it important enough that everybody needs to know. We have the Rejoin March today in London. In London, I'm afraid. And, you know, I'll try and talk to someone about having a future one in a more civilised and, above all, accessible part of the country, but I'm not necessarily hopeful. But, you know, at just the time when those behind the hard Brexit are losing their minds, those against any sort of Brexit are waking up. I think a lot of people thought when we left, probably perfectly reasonably, that there wasn't much to be done about it until the facts came rolling in. We'd had the hypothetical arguments. They hadn't necessarily failed because had there been a people's vote, people would have voted to remain. Even Jacob Rees-Mogg said that. But it didn't get us anywhere, ultimately. So what was needed now was cold, hard reality. We needed the cold, hard facts, and we had to wait for those. So I think a lot of people just went into hibernation for a bit until the time was right. And maybe that time is now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting some massive sea change in public opinion. I'm not expecting million marches through the cities of Britain demanding a return to the EU with all possible haste. Not that things like that are ever hasty. It would be nice. I don't see it. But right now, people are more focused on their cost of living problems. But consider this. The government right now have a big hole in their budget, tens of billions of pounds that they need to fill. This has been caused by Truss and Kwarteng's reckless behaviour. The intervention of Jeremy Hunt may have calmed the markets, but it hasn't made the hole go away. We also know that they won't plug that hole with taxes on the wealthy beyond what they will be forced to do anyway. They are clear that we can expect higher interest rates and cuts to public spending. In other words, a squeeze on your living standards. The extra cost of government debt from the Tory mini-budget alone is £20 billion. That is £20 billion extra just to serve the existing national debt from the budget that was supposed to be for public services just because the Tories let Liz Truss pretend to be our Prime Minister for a few weeks. So how does this link with Brexit? Well, if we're talking trade, we created a hard border with our most important market. That has reduced the volume of goods that we can export to the EU. So what goods we can export now make less money because Brexit red tape's expensive. And the goods that can't be exported make no money at all. So across the country, as a nation, as a collective of exporters, we're making less profit on those exports. That means less money being raised in taxes because you tax profits. If we reversed our export barriers, we could sell more and we could sell more profitably, and the government would raise more taxes naturally without changing anything about the way they tax or spend. But then there's imports, because there's proper export controls, because the EU are applying import controls on their side of the border, but we are not reciprocating. We are not applying proper import controls. There are customs procedures now. Sure, you got to fill in forms, but not many checks and barely any standards controls at all. The consequence of this is smugglers are having a very easy time. Recently, a lorry load of illicit cigarettes was caught. 99 million just piled up in a lorry. There was no attempt to hide the consignment, none at all. It was just loaded into a lorry. They jammed the lorry full of as many cigarettes as they could and sent it across to Britain without the proper declarations. This lorry was caught, but the fact that smugglers were even attempting to send so much means that they're blatantly doing the same thing time and again, and they're used to getting away with it. They got caught this time. How many more lorry loads have got through without being caught? Smuggling used to mean hiding things because you expected checks. So if a check was going to happen, try and hide it so they don't find it. Not anymore. Don't bother hiding it. Load it up, send it across. Chances of it being checked are so small that it's worth the risk. Think about how much the Treasury is losing in import duties as a result of that. Our decision to leave the single market is costing us a fortune in tax revenues, to say nothing of jobs and people's incomes. So if we rejoined, those tax revenues would go back up fairly quickly without having to do anything else. Without having to do anything else with our tax system. Just rejoining would see tax revenues rise. Now, if people thought we were doing all right as a country, you know, they might not be that bothered. You try and tell them we're losing loads of money in taxes here. They'll think, well, you know, I don't mind. I can still see my GP and, you know, I can still pay the bills and whatever. Well, they can't, can they? They're losing out. So when their public services are being cut because the Tories say, sorry, we made a hole in the budget and now we need to cut public spending, or sorry, we made a hole in the budget and now we need to squeeze your income. Well, on the other hand, you say to those same people, but if we lowered our trade barriers, we could raise more taxes and help fill that hole. What do you imagine people will think to that? I think they'd like a better trade deal and to hell with cutting public services, don't you? But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.